Tyson, how you going?
Good, thanks, Luke. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Thought I'd start with a quote. The only true test of intelligence is if you get what you wanted out of life. I feel, in a lot of ways, like my need for success and I guess wealth has trapped me. And that's why I wanted to talk to you.
Okay.
Because I feel like, or maybe let's just dive into kind of your business and what you did. That'd be great.
So I did my apprenticeship in Wollonga. Started off down there with Miller Electrical. Did that for 7 years and then decided to dive into giving it a crack for myself. I was going backwards, bought my own house at 21 and was working for Steve and wasn't earning the money that I was spending. Of course, that
never changes, does it?
No, that's right. That's the more you earn, the more you spend. But yes, no, we were going backwards, so I decided to give it a crack. And I've always been a motivated person who I told Steve from the start I wanted to start my own business and give it a red hot crack. So yeah, went out and gave that a shot. That was 10 years ago now, actually.
Yeah.
In January this year, 10 years ago, I decided to go out and have a shot.
Yeah.
So yeah, jumped into it back then and yeah, was sort of just trying to pick up work here, there and everywhere, wherever we could, and managed to sign on a really good worker straight off the bat. I think we're only 6 months into business and I signed on Ollie, who's been with me for 9 years. So
Yep.
He's been fantastic. And yeah, sort of just jumped straight into work and then business started to grow and I was working around the clock and doing some silly hours. As every business owner sort of starts off doing.
Yep.
This was before kids and a wife, so of course before family. Oh, I had my partner then, Lauren, but yeah, we obviously weren't married at that point. So yeah, jumped in head first and gave it a bit of a crack. And then of course one thing led to another. I ended up with, Ollie went fully qualified, got another apprentice on. There was 3 of us in the team. And then I had a good friend of mine. He was a Sparky, local Sparky. He pulled me aside and said, I'd like to have a chat with you. I feel like at the moment you're working a lot of hours and working yourself silly, but you're potentially not making the money that you deserve to make from what you're doing. And of course, I sort of took a bit of offense to that back then, being quite new to all of this.
Don't tell me how to run my business.
Yeah, correct. And of course, he went about it fantastic. He was really, really good and sort of just said, come over to my place and have a chat. And I rocked up to his place. And I think at this point I'd had Elena. Elena was 3 months old. And he's got no kids. So, of course, I rocked up to his place 15 minutes late and he looked at his watch as soon as I walked in and went, oh, so we had a meeting starting at 9 and you rolled in at 9:15. What's going on? I was like, oh, easy, mate. I've got a kid. I got this. I got that. It's pretty crazy. I've struggled to even get here, let alone start picking on me about time. And he's like, well, this is business. You're on time. Nah, fair enough. Or I was like, oh, okay, yep. So he sort of pulled me into line pretty quickly, which was a bit of a reality check straight off the bat. And we went back through all the financials and profit and losses and bits and pieces. And of course, he showed me what he was doing through business coaching.
How good were your financials at that point?
Yeah, not very good.
Yeah.
No, I thought I was doing really well. I'd bought my first jet ski.
Oh, I guess I meant from a recording point of view because my P&L was an absolute nightmare until about 2 years ago.
Well, to be honest with you, I didn't have a lot of records. I wasn't keeping anything. It was pretty much a diary and just him telling me what I earn and what we've been doing.
Yep.
And I probably didn't have enough data to actually show him what we had been actually earning. So, of course, once he pulled up all of his spreadsheets and showed me exactly what was going on, I went, okay, so this is how you're supposed to run business.
So, I mean, my business was like that till about 6 years in.
Yep.
And the money's coming in, so I didn't really give a shit.
Yeah,
and then it's not until I found out that, I'd made a few mistakes and my cash flow was absolutely fucked and I was a few $100,000 in debt that I really sorted out my P&L and got a lot of accuracy into cash flow and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, for sure. So I of course, was gobsmacked at how accurate and what he was actually doing and why he was doing it. I was just charging what I was charging per hour and for materials the same as what my old boss was doing just because I thought, well, that's what everyone else does, so that's what I'm going to do.
Yep.
So, of course, jumped into that side of it and he gave me the number of the business coach. Paul Rogers, the guy that I've been using for 4 years now. So jumped in with him and, of course, at the end of it, he came out and said, you're doing a lot of hours. By the time we calculate your hours against what you're actually making, you're in the red by $20,000 a year. I was like, what do you mean? I got pretty defensive about it all and went, no, you don't know what you're talking about. I've bought a jet ski. I've got this. I've got that. I feel like we're doing all right in business. And it took me probably a good month of, I committed to Paul and went, all right, let's do this. It's a 6-month course where he just deep dived into the business. Started to really rip some stuff out that I wasn't really sure where it was going to go and how it was going to sort of turn my life around at the time. But we actually ended up butting heads, Paul and myself. He wanted me to change my ways pretty quickly. And of course, I tried to explain to him why that wouldn't work. And he ended up saying, you can stick it, Tyson. I don't want to do this with you anymore. If you're not willing to listen, then see you later. I'm done with you in business.
Yeah.
So of course...
Well, but the thing is, like, you've built this thing that's generating cash, all right? So it's very hard to just be like, okay, let's rip the whole structure down and start again. You've got to take it piece by piece.
Correct.
You know, I think, like, most of it's just basically for the owner's sanity. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like you built this thing, like, you think it's all like luck and, you know, you're lucky to have it. And it's just like there's so much fear around destroying everything you built.
Exactly.
And you're like, that, he doesn't understand the electrical industry. He doesn't understand what I do.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
And I got quite defensive with that side of it, which that was the hardest part, was just sort of coming to... He tried to do the little bits. And of course, like, for instance, getting out of diaries and getting everything online and getting a good online system that we could actually use, which talked to apps and had everything. I was like, nah, diaries are the way to go. We need diaries.
Yeah.
And of course, when he got sick of repeating himself and me saying, yeah, I'll give it a crack, and then just not doing it, I think that was when he got to the breaking point of saying, if you're not going to listen, that's it, we're done. Oh, you can take your money back. You haven't paid me a cent. Like, we'll call it even, and you can go your way, I'll go my way.
Yep.
So myself and my wife, we sort of went, all right, Tyson, it's time to give in and start doing things his way, which worked. It was amazing. So from that moment forward, I will not look back. We employed a few more staff. We sort of broke everything down into what we want in life. I think that was the biggest part, was him teaching me that, Tyson, what do you and your wife actually want out of business? And I was like, to be busy next week. I want to make sure we got work. I want to make sure that everything's happening and that we're always steady with workflow. And he's like, no, outside of business, what do you actually want? What's some life goals? And I was like, no, I've never thought about it.
This is interesting. So have you redone that? Did you redo that on a regular basis, or did you only do that one time?
No, we redid it, yes, a few times with him. Of course, at the start, it wasn't, the life goals were definitely not what they've turned into from sort of 4 years ago, what they are now.
Yeah.
But I did work out very quickly, once I started setting goals with business and in my own personal life, that they started happening very quickly, because I'm very driven. Once I've got a goal and I've got a clear picture in my mind, I'll work around the clock to make that happen.
Yeah.
So very quickly, these goals were getting ticked off and business started to go quite well.
Yep.
We got another van on the road, employed another guy that was a fantastic fit for the business. And then put another apprentice on, and before I know it, I had 2 vans on the road and myself. And that was roughly around the time that COVID sort of set in. So the first 2 weeks of COVID were panic stations when it all sort of first hit. And then as a trade industry, we went ballistic.
Yep.
Everybody wanted to spend all their money on their house. Everyone wanted to create their own paradise. The domestic market went absolutely crazy.
Okay.
So it was perfect timing for me. So of course, then I employed an operations manager. I put someone on in the office to give me a bit of a hand, because of course I wasn't doing anything fantastically. We were doing it all, but it wasn't to the perfection that I required. And it wasn't until I put an operations manager on to help me with the phone calls and the booking and scheduling that we sort of really started to make some good movement forward.
Yeah. So, all right. So that's a great build up, because, you know, I have a similar trajectory, and it, you know, you're talking about having the resistance from your business coach and all that. And that's why I admire so much what you chose to do over the last couple of years, because how do you get over that fear, right? So that's what my quote was about at the start, right? You know, true intelligence is getting what you want out of life. You know, but I think I built this business because all I thought I wanted was material success. But now I'm trapped in a way that I'm worried that if I do something wrong, it's all going to crumble. Now, what you did, if you could just kind of go into your story a bit.
So we had 12 months off, which was amazing. So that was one of the goals that we set, was myself and my wife, we put aside we'd like to do something once our youngest child is 1 as a minimum. We'd like to go away and do 12 months with the kids and do something out of the ordinary. So we sort of picked the caravanning life.
Yeah.
Decided to give that one a shot. And we're not campers. We are outdoor people, but we're not people that would go and just set up a tent in the middle of nowhere and live for 3 or 4 days and go and do that. But of course, caravanning it does involve off-grid camping, but you've got a fairly nice apartment really on wheels that you're dragging around Australia essentially and just getting out and doing something out of the ordinary.
So were you expecting to still be working while you were doing that?
So yes, definitely. I pictured the operations manager, obviously myself and my business coach talked a lot about how to make this goal come into play and how to actually make it happen. We initially started with, I was going to still run the phones and the out of hours bits and pieces remotely. Obviously having no idea that would actually work, and it would not have worked.
The phones and the out. So what are the out of hours stuff?
So my operations manager would take over the phones from 7:30 till 4 every day. So it switches to his phone and he can answer the calls in hours, and then it switches back to me out of hours.
Okay.
Essentially, that's
how
how
much
we.
of your work comes from out of hours calls?
We're 24/7. Yeah.
But how much, like as a percentage, how many phone calls are you getting?
Yeah, very minimal. Yeah. I mean, it's more of a breakdown sort of a scenario.
Yep.
So we work for a couple of milk factories. That, of course, if they have a breakdown or something goes wrong in the middle of the night and they need someone, they call us, and we're essentially on call. And
The
we
operations manager wouldn't be on call.
Well,
He
it's
wants
sort
to,
of,
yeah.
he didn't really want to. And he was also not an electrician.
Yep.
So he didn't have the know-how and to be able to get people out of those sticky situations. It's just easier for me to do that side of things. And it was going to be me going to do the work anyway, so I might as well just take the calls.
Yep.
But yeah, anyway, so I got talked into employing a general manager. And once he was on board, the operations and general manager in the office, of course, that was part of the training. We did 12 months leading up to my trip. And once I had in my head we were going, it was a matter of, okay, how am I going to make this work?
So what does your team look like at this point? So you've got a GM.
Yep.
You've got an ops manager.
Yep.
You've got trades. What about
Yes.
finance, stuff like that? Are you doing that?
So I have got a bookkeeper in the background.
Yeah, and the contractor.
What
Are
was
they
that,
a
sorry?
contractor or are they directly employed by you?
No, contractor.
Yep.
Yep. So I've got her, and I've obviously got, doing the tax side of things as well in the back end as another person that obviously we relate to.
Yep.
So I had, what was it?
But are the rest trades? You've got GM, ops manager. and
Yes,
the rest
correct.
are trades.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So Rob, my GM, he was essentially running all of the back end documentation, but then I employed my business coach as well for 12 months to actually work hand in hand with Rob to make sure that any questions that Rob had that he would normally ask me would go straight through the business coach. So they were on the phone to each other every couple of days working through issues, and they caught up fortnightly to make sure that. God,
what did you charge you for that? I mean, my business coach, I've had many business coaches over the years, and I mean, that kind of service seems like it would
Well, to be honest with you, he did me a massive favour with that. He ended up coming up with a number that he was happy with that we'd pay him, that he took a lot of learnings out of this because he'd like to advertise doing this sort of a thing, training up current staff members to become general managers in businesses. So he took a fair hit with it as well. He was sort of learning at the same time. So it was a lot of money, but it wasn't ridiculous.
Yep.
Which is good. So, and that saved me. I mean, they did come to me a few times whilst I was away to say, hey, this is a scenario, what should we do? But it was very minimal in the scheme of things.
How was the fear building up to it? Was there any?
Yeah, a lot. So my first fear with business was to give over the phones to the operations manager. I, of course, had to let my friends, family, current clients all go through him, which was not easy. That was one part that I sort of did struggle to let go. It was always what'd you say to him, or how'd the conversation go?
That's the best thing I've ever done. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. My wife loved it.
Yeah.
I wasn't constantly on the phone all the time.
Well, look, I couldn't get. I got to the point where I couldn't get anything done.
Yes.
Like my phone's literally going all day, and it's like I'm taking care of not stupid, but like inquiries that so many other people can that I was afraid to let go of, and I'm actually not getting the important stuff in the business done.
Yes.
So yeah.
It's because by the time you've taken that phone call and all of a sudden you've answered that person's issue, you've lost yourself for 10 or 15 minutes. You're distracted. You think to yourself, what have I been doing?
Yeah.
You jump back into it again, and all of a sudden it's just like, oh, I've got another phone call coming through.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. That was the fear. Okay.
Yeah, well, that was the initial fear. And then, of course, the fear of whether the business is going to work or not whilst I was away. So we were very fortunate that I had some very close friends and family working in the business with me as the tradesman and as people that I'd known for a long time. So, of course, I did have a lot of trust in my staff and in my boys. I feel like they were ready to run the business, and essentially the 2 or 3 months leading up, I stepped right back off the tools and away from the business just to try and see what cracks would come open and what would happen. And there definitely were a lot of cracks and a lot of things that I had to sort of jump on pretty quickly and try and fix before we left. But it was once I've got something in my head that I'm leaving and I'm going, it was sort of a matter of working around the clock to try and get systems in place and get everything ready to go.
Yeah.
And whatever isn't done, it's not going to get done. Not everything was completed, not everything was done, but it was done to a point where it functioned and it worked.
Yeah.
And I was very scared that business was going to fail and that it wasn't going to work whilst I was away. But I sort of just went, if I don't give this a crack, I'm never going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why I kind of admire what you did, because I don't think I would have the courage to be able to. I mean, 1 year is a hell of a commitment.
Yeah, it's a long time. We worked out while we were away that 12 months is a very long time to be away from friends, family, and business.
Yeah.
We did get homesick quite a few times, but at the same time, I think we're both stubborn enough that it went, well, we're not going to go home because we've set this up and we've worked too hard to make this happen that we're going to do this and we're not going to go home.
So one of my fears, and I've learned over the years that this is like just me, it's self-inflicted. I don't think it's actually based in reality, but I have a fear of whenever I do anything, like let's say if I get a new car, I fear to drive it in because of what the staff will think, right? And also what the customers will think. You know, I always have this fear of, they'll think that, how come he's getting all of this and they'll want more. Did you have that fear in you because you're doing such an amazing thing? And also, if you did have that fear, do you think that was internal or do you think there was actually some pushback from staff?
I feel like I've got the exact same fear. And I feel I think you're right. But I feel like my staff, no one's ever said to me what you have in your head. Like no one's ever actually put me on the spot and said, oh, why have you got this and why have you got that? But there's been a lot of smart ass comments, I suppose you could say, or remarks that people have sort of said that imply exactly what you've said. So it sort of builds that fear inside your head and then you might overthink it or start to think, well, I don't want them or my staff or clients to potentially judge me on, well, how much is he charging me? But of course they don't see that the bank owns this or the bank owns that or the back end side of things. All they see is the flash new car or the flash thing that you roll in, but don't probably understand the full picture of it. And I do get very uptight about that.
It was an extreme fear for me. Like I've got over it to a level now, but like I'd be like, doing these crazy hours and coming in with bags under my eyes and my voice going because I'm so stressed and exhausted. And thinking like I have to do this because if everybody sees, me slacking off, that will go down and trickle through the business. And then I had staff coming up to me like, go take 2 weeks off. Like you look fucked.
Yeah.
And then like I'd go away for a week and they'd be like, oh look, go for some well-deserved time off. So I think a lot of it for me is just internal fear.
Yeah, I think, right. I'm exactly the same. I always believe that I need to lead from the front and I need to show the guys that hard work just doesn't happen. You've got to actually implement it. And if I'm working hard, then they'll want to work hard for me because, of course, they see that. But yeah, the 12 months off, my guys were fantastic. They all completed all the tasks and we were still getting 5-star reviews online. And that sort of stuff was very pleasing for me to see because it meant that my guys do care. And they're still, at the end of the day, you're giving them a job and you're paying them a really good wage to do that job. As long as that can continue, then I don't think you need to feel
as long
guilty.
as the value proposition is there, like
Correct.
They feel like they're getting rewarded for what they're giving in.
Definitely.
So, I mean, how did it go? There's a couple of ways we can go here. I want to hear about the trip, but also like how did it go from a management perspective? I guess over the first 3, 6, and 12 months, like how did it actually play out?
So the business definitely didn't do what I was hoping it was going to do. It was a pretty big learning curve for me, actually, because, of course, as a business owner, you work without even thinking that you're working. So my 3 months leading up to the trip, I thought to myself, I'm doing nothing. But actually my 20 to 25 hours of doing just bits and pieces here and there, phone calls, trips, back and forward, fixing up mistakes, just doing little things around the business does actually add up, and somebody's got to do all that stuff when you're not there. Yeah. So the first 6 months, so we did a review. I was getting monthly reviews to come through from the GM. So essentially they would just go through and give me an assessment as to how the business was going, profit and losses.
Was that all the contact?
What was that?
Like
Sorry.
you weren't having daily phone calls or weekly phone calls.
No,
it was
that
just
was
a monthly review.
Yeah, once a month I got an email that came through. Of course, we were remote WA, so we didn't have a lot of service out there. I had a Starlink, but I was very picky and choosy as to when I wanted to turn that on.
Yeah.
I didn't want the Starlink to be on at all times. I actually really enjoyed the fact of being off grid with no communication.
Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it?
Quality time with just my wife and 3 kids. So
Yeah.
that was very special. But yeah, the first 3 months, because I think I worked so hard to get on the road and get going, I resented the business. I didn't want anything to do with it. I didn't want to take a phone call. If I got a phone call, I would wait to ring it back. I got very nervous about any decisions that were being made, and I thought it's easier to just not know than what it is to try and micromanage and be OCD over the top with things.
Yeah, so it sounds like a big change, like mentally. Like do you think because you were having such a good time, you would have been okay if things were, if there was a big downturn in the business?
Well, essentially we left and I'd put a lot of excess money or any money that we had. I didn't save it for the trip. I put a lot of money into the business just to try and bring overheads down and try and make it that in my head, for some reason, I thought if we've got low overheads and all we're doing is paying for a few vehicle expenses and staff, like obviously wages, we should do this, no worries. We should fly through and that'll pay whatever we're earning through the business will pay for the trip.
Okay, so if you don't want to answer this, don't worry about it. But so how was the trip being funded? The trip was being funded through distributions from the business,
Correct.
Or you had a cash buffer, or there was a bit of both going on?
We took, I reckon it was 10 grand away with us as the initial, okay, that's just some money just to get us going.
Okay, and then you had a constant feed of distributions coming from the business.
Yes.
Okay.
So I set everything up in the business with a budget.
Yep.
And of course put myself in that. And we were getting fortnightly payments from the business.
Yep.
To try and cover what we thought it would cost to be on the road. The first 6 months, we went into the red by a long way with the business. The business did struggle. We had quite a few builders. The start of last year was a tricky time as a tradie. I spoke to a lot of people from back at home. And of course, the work was thinning out. It was going back to what it was prior to COVID. It was just essentially bad timing. Mm-hmm. The domestic market, with interest rate rises leading up to us leaving on our trip, everyone was holding their pennies close. So, of course, people weren't spending like they were in the 12 months leading up to my trip. So all of this work I'd put in and all this, I suppose all the fruition that I'd sort of thought to myself that it was going to happen, didn't happen.
Yeah.
So we had builders that had other tradesmen let them down. So, of course, they had to push jobs out. We didn't have jobs to fill those holes. So we had a lot of time that the guys were sitting around essentially twiddling their thumbs or driving from an hour between jobs just to try and patch stuff together and try and fill out an 8-hour day. So the business went down quite quickly. I mean, the boys were fantastic. They still did their job. They managed to push through, but the financials weren't fantastic. Mm-hmm. The financials were going backwards quickly. So I had in the back of my head before we left that we had an option B, which was money that I had in an offset that I've been putting aside for the past 5 years. That's sort of a bit of a business backup, a bit of a personal backup, and by month 2 we had to access that. We were already starting to scrape into our option B because the business was not doing what I thought it was going to do. Yeah. So, of course, I'm not good with money stress.
That was my next question.
Yeah, I'm not. That's one thing that will push me over the edge and makes me not a very nice person to be around. Yeah. You can ask my wife and she'd say that.
Yeah.
I don't like money stress and I don't like what money does to human beings.
Yeah.
It can turn people ugly very quickly and it does that to me. I don't like it when I turn into that person. But of course, we were on a trip that revolved around money. So I was getting quite stressed out at the start of the trip about that, hence why I probably resented the business a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, so I said briefly before, but at the start of last year, I think it was, I'd made a few mistakes and I didn't have full clarity on my financial situation in the business. And that just coincided with Jess wanting to get out of where she was working. So we were down to one income and I realized that I'd made a few fairly big fuck ups and I won't go into the exact numbers, but I was hundreds of thousands of dollars in the red. And the emotional toll that took on me is just indescribable. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah,
like
it's horrible.
sleepless nights, and then you're trying to solve this big problem and make cuts and trying to get financial clarity, you know, and worried that the only thing that can actually repay this debt is the business. And then there's a fear that the business is going under because, you know, I was negotiating with the ATO at the time. Now, this is all, everything worked out and I'm in a much better position now. But just, yeah, that financial stress is just undescribable.
Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something that I hate going through.
Yeah.
And I almost now, since being home, have decided that I want to try and do everything I can to not have that financial stress over me. I hate it. It's one of those things that to try and make life a little bit easier and that you don't have to be smashing yourself every week is something that I'd like to really try and push myself towards doing. So
yeah, interesting. I mean, if I'm wrong, correct me, but I think in the past you've described yourself as materialistic. Is that correct?
Yeah,
do you think you still are?
I still like my bells and whistles, and I still like when I do save my pennies and buy something. I still like to keep things very clean and tidy. And try and make everything that I do own very nice to look at, and just everything's clean and tidy, I suppose. And I do like my toys, but at the same time, they're not everything. They're not the things that do keep you happy. They, like you said before, they can fill a hole and they can make you feel happy for a short term, but they're not the sort of thing that I think once you've got them, you go, what's next?
Well, for me, it's filling a hole. That short term is getting shorter and shorter, right? So, I don't know. I've got this internal battle in me where I always, you know, wanted wealth. I always wanted materialism. But then there's but then there's the pressure I put myself under so the business grows so I have that money. And I'm almost getting to the point where it's like the juice isn't worth the squeeze. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I bought my dream car and I loved it for about 5 minutes and then I went, fuck, I got to pay for this thing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, you know, how much more joy I get out of having the Land Cruiser than I would a Hilux. And then like, what does that do to my need to earn more money? Like, I think I'm naturally materialistic, but I think it's like I think it's fake. Like, I think I'll be happy when I get the nice stuff, and then I'm just not. And I think in reality, I would be happy if I was able to get this fucking monkey off my back of needing to be successful, of needing I guess, you know, build status through building a business, whatever the fuck that means.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
100%.
And I'm at this point in my life where I'm like, I'm constantly going, oh no, look, I'm actually happier when I can spend more time with the family and stuff like that. I mean, like you mentioned in the email the other day about like, oh, how do you, you know, find time to do anything? And I'm like, well, I don't know. And I'm like, I don't even. So I've been sober coming up to 9 months now, right? And I think like my drinking was curing my restlessness. So now I'm just restless all the time and I just take things on, right? And it's to the point where I'm always fucking busy, right? My schedule's always fucked. And, you know, because at the time I'll go, oh, if I do this, I'll make more money. Or if I do this, you know, I'll come off as, you know, higher status, if that makes any sense at all. But then I just feel my life where I'm just constantly stressed. I don't know. Does any of that make sense
definitely.
to you?
It's funny you say about the whole materialistic thing because I actually learned that lesson last year whilst we were away on the road. So I've got a Ram 1500 that I've obviously set up for the trip.
Yeah.
That was brand new. That I really wanted to have a 4.5 ton towing capacity vehicle because we got a 3.5 ton van that we bought brand new. Everything was black and grey. It all looks beautiful. It's a fantastic rig, and
Yeah, it's a nice car.
I thought that I needed to have all of these flash things to be able to go away and enjoy Australia. And obviously, yes, it's good to have new things for the fact of things shouldn't necessarily break down on you. If you buy old, you run the risk of things falling apart or you don't know the life that it's had.
Yeah.
But I did learn throughout the back of Exmouth, actually. We were driving down a full drive track and I pinstriped the side of the car and the caravan. And it's the footage we got off the dash cam was quite funny. I was swearing and cursing and, I said some stuff in the car that I probably shouldn't have said.
Yeah.
Along the lines of why have I worked my whole life and worked so hard for this stuff. And here I am just effing it all up and destroying everything. along a stupid
subconscious
four-wheel
coming
drive.
out, yeah.
Yeah, correct. And then I sort of started to think about that and went, well, really, I looked around at the campsites that we went to and everywhere we went in Australia, and people were sleeping in tents and old beaten up cars, and they're having just as much fun as I am with my family with my
Yeah.
$300,000 rig coming down the road.
And they probably don't have that money stress of
Correct.
you having to access your overflow because
100%.
you know, and you know, there's the extreme version of that who people travel the world with a paper bag, you know. So I don't know. I think like if you look at that on a spectrum, I'm too far towards the materialistic side,
Yes.
and I think if I'm actually able to stand back and look at my life, I think I would be happier if I was to forego some of that material stuff and just be like, and not have the need for the bit like, so I get into these things where I'm like, okay, no, I need to, you know, turn over X amount and, you know, to get there, like the goal setting stuff, right? And then I do all these things, like I hire a marketing manager, I hire this, I hire that. But then I have to, you know, as a CEO, I have to give them attention. So I'm just spreading my time even thinner.
Yes.
Right. And the reality is with my level of income, I should be happy now. Like, I guess what I'm saying is like, I need to, there was that need for success, right? And then when you hit that success, you naturally just keep moving the goalpost.
What's next?
Goalpost. Yeah, I need to stop that what's next and enjoy the level of success I've had now.
Yeah, 100% you do. And that's something that, like I said, last year was incredible. And I did learn a lot of those sort of life things that your kids are only going to grow up quicker and quicker and quicker. And the more things that you take on in life, the busier you become, the more the days fly by, the more each night goes past. And all of a sudden, your kids are going to be teenagers and they'll be, whether they move out of home before they're 30, once our kids actually get to the age of buying a house or not, who knows? Because it's going to be phenomenally expensive. I don't know how they're ever going to be able to afford it. But at the same time, they are going to be gone at some point. And that's something my business coach did actually teach me from the very start, was that there's one thing in life you can't buy back. And of course, it's time. You cannot buy back the young years with your kids. And you have to make sure that you're enjoying every bit of it because you'll never get it back.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, yeah, I think, you know, you spoke about the early stage of the business working crazy hours. I did that as well. Like I've got a weird relationship to, like, when Isla was born, I was back at work the next day, you know, 12, 14-hour days, all of that kind of stuff. And, you know, in some ways I regret that because I just left Jess at home to look after a baby. But in other ways, you know, I'm enjoying the fruits of those labors now. But I guess what I'm saying is I think, you know, we as in the early stages of business, you build up this, idea that you need to work crazy hours to be successful, which you probably do at the early stages. But at some point, you've got to flick that switch, right? Otherwise, you get to a point where you go, okay, I started this business so I can have an awesome life with my family, but I'm never fucking home. I'm always so stressed that when I am home, I'm like, you got to walk around on eggshells. Now, obviously, I'm describing an extreme case of this. But at some point, you've got to make that switch and be able to actually enjoy the fruits of your labor rather than going, okay, now I'm here. I've got, you know, this car. Okay, now I want this car, or now I want this house. And you're just constantly in that cycle where you're committing to things because that they look shiny. But the reality is you're not really looking at the lifestyle that you need to sacrifice to be able to achieve that shiny thing.
I think it's because it's addictive. Once
Fuck
you start
yeah.
you start to tick boxes, and once you start to get these goals and these things, it's what's next, and it becomes very addictive to go, well, I've been successful to here. What else can I do? What's coming around the corner?
And there's an extreme end of that, and I don't think you and I are at risk of the extreme end of that. But the extreme end of that is the lonely old man on a yacht. You know what I mean? Like he's lost his family, has no relationship with his kids, but he's got fucking millions and millions of dollars. I don't want to be that.
Nah, me either. No,
Fuck
thanks.
that.
Yeah.
You know, and I guess that's why, you know, I admire what you did by being able to remove yourself from the business and go on that trip, because I don't have the balls to do that.
Yeah. Well, it was something that we will never forget. And I mean, I go back through My camera roll now, and I did it whilst I was on the trip. And before we left, a lot of my camera roll on my phone was work photos. Oh, there's one of the kids. There's me. Oh, there's one odd family photo. Work photos.
Yeah, all my photos are just mechanical seals.
Correct. Exactly. Mine's exactly the same.
Yeah.
But the last 12 months, I flick back through my photos and it makes me smile. It makes me go, this is incredible, and look at these cool memories that I've actually got with my family.
Yeah.
So when my middle child was coming home from the trip, she, of course, needed a family photo for kindy. And there was so many photos we had to choose from. It wasn't a matter of what photo we're going to use of the 5 of us. It was a matter of, which location we want to get a family photo from.
That's really cool.
Of the 5 of us for her to have at her kindy. And then we got home, looked at everyone else's photos, and some good friends of ours that their child's the same age. They had a photo that they had on the wall that was from Christmas to the family, and they said, that's the only family photo we've actually got that we could give to the kindy that's of somewhat within the last sort of 3, 4, 5 months. It's like, oh my goodness, and those are the sort of little pinch me moments that you go, we have been very, very lucky as to what we've done.
The kids will never forget it either.
Yeah, correct. And I mean, my youngest was 1.5 going through to 2.5 on the road, and she might not remember much of it, but the fact that she had mum and dad present in her life for that very important young age of her life, I think is just as special as the 4.5 going on 5 and 7-year-old that we took away as well, that will actually remember the trip. Mum and dad being present for 12 months of their life is huge. And of course, our relationships that we now have with the kids are awesome. So
I don't think we've spoken about what you actually did yet.
Yeah,
let's talk about the
we've
trip.
probably jumped sort of back and forward a little bit.
That's my fault.
Yeah, so anyway, so going back, I suppose, to what we talked about before was the whole lead up to the trip and everything sort of coming to play, and then we hit the road and off we went. And
so what did you do? You hit the road. So
we left January 6th. It was
with a caravan.
Yeah, with the caravan. And so the Ram. Well, actually, so with the lead up to the trip, that was one hiccup that was quite stressful. I got the Ram weighed in 6 months before we left with the caravan, because we bought the caravan first and then the Ram afterwards. And of course, the guy came out, put everything on the scales. Lauren and the kids weren't around. I've jumped on the scales and he's gone, yep, you're all clear. I had everything I wanted to install on the car in the back tub of the Ram. And he goes, yep, you're all clear. Everything looks all good. Off you go. So of course, I've gone and paid labour and got everything installed and got everything done. 8 weeks, I reckon it was, before we left, I had him come back because, of course, I said to Lauren, we've got to get this thing weighed in now that everything's on there and installed. Let's make sure that we're all to code, everything's good. He's come back around, and, of course, I made sure that Lauren and the kids were home. He's come around, we've all sat in the car, we're on the scales, he comes over and goes, we've got an issue. What do you mean we've got an issue? He goes, your car's 250 kilos overweight on the rear axle. I went, Nah, can't be. Hang on, the only 2 things I've added to the back of the car, which was things I thought I'd be able to sneak in, was a fridge and a slide. So, of course, pulled those 2 things out, put it on the ground, sat back in the car. Now what's it saying? He's like, still 220 kilos overweight. I was like, we can't be. And he's like, well, your wife and kids are all in the car with all the car seats and all their stuff. I was like, I told you that they're obviously not here and I wasn't going on a family holiday by myself. And he went, oh, sorry, that must have been a miscommunication. Yeah, you're going to have to get a new vehicle. And of course, my whole world got tipped upside down at that point. I'm trying to set the business up to leave.
So what was the original vehicle?
A Ram 1500. Okay. So I had a Ram 1500 that I'd bought, brand new, but it was a limited. So there's 4 models. It was the top model. Of course, it came with all the extras, the sunroof, the this, the that. And I just liked all the stuff that it had as the top model. But it had airbag suspension, not coil suspension.
Okay.
So you couldn't at the time GVM upgrade airbag suspension.
Okay.
But the coil suspension, you can. So the model down, which was 15 grand cheaper, I could GVM upgrade it.
Just GVM upgrade is the upgrade of the suspension, so you can tow more.
Yes, correct. So you can have more weight in the car and on the back of the car.
Yeah.
So, of course, that was I then made a million phone calls, called Ram and said, what can you do for me? And, of course, they turned around and said, oh, we've got the perfect car for you. I was like, I only bought this one 9 months ago, and you said the same thing 9 months ago. Like, surely this didn't happen. And, of course, he's gone, oh, well, you needed to have this before tax time and that, so you could use it, obviously, as a work vehicle with the lead up. And he said, we sort of just pushed this through for you.
Yeah, it's your fault.
Yeah, well, correct. Put it all back on me, which, in his defence, it is my vehicle. I should have known what I was asking for and I should have done the research. But not knowing about caravanning at that point and towing and everything, I sort of just went, it's a Ram 1500. It can have 450 kilos on the tow ball, is what they say. And of course, you can tow 4.5 ton. Our van's 3.5 ton, 350 kilos on the ball. We're good to rock and roll. But I forgot about the fact of you can tow it if you've got nothing else in the car with you. Mm-hmm. But I had lots of stuff in the car with us as well as in the van. So it all got pretty complicated. Called Ram. They could have one for me with ready for me to pick up and delivered. But it was only going to leave 3 weeks until we left.
Yep.
So, of course, I made that decision to do that. Made a million phone calls to get everything swapped over. I owned 2 Rams there for a little bit, where, of course, I had the old one and the new one, and swapped absolutely everything over, traded the old one in, and had the new Ram sort of ready to go. But
how'd you trade it in if you had both at the same time?
So Ram were trading it in, and then, of course, selling me the new one. So when I got over to Mount Gambier, I had to pay a guy over there to do the swap over of everything. Okay. So it all happened in the same day. And got swapped over, which is the rear racking, the solar panels, the roof rack system, everything had to be swapped over. And then, of course, all the new stuff off, because they were both the same looking vehicle, all the new stuff off the new one went onto the old one, so that then that could be traded in with all shiny parts on it and not holes all through it. So it was quite a stressful situation. But, of course, we managed to pull it off and hit the road. I still remember not really sleeping a lot before we left and leaving on this trip going, I just want to get out of Wollonga and I want to go and not come back for 12 months. So it was an amazing feeling driving out of the driveway. Of course, there were some tears with saying goodbye to family. And the 6th of January rolled around and off we went. So we headed down to Clare first, spent some time with my family down there before we headed west. So
So what was the plan? As in, like, were you going around the whole coastline of Australia?
Yeah, stick to the coast and go clockwise around.
Yep,
was the plan, and obviously, just staying as close to the coast as we could.
Is that a common route? How did you figure?
Well, that wasn't my category. That was the wife's. She sort of decided how that was all going to work. The whole plan was we had a map of Australia, and we had month by month where we had to be to follow the sun, so we didn't obviously hit the wet seasons anywhere that we went. So, of course, we managed to have pretty well summer for 12 months, which was incredible. Wow. The first 6 months through WA, we didn't have one day under 28.
Yep.
And sunshine every single day. It was beautiful. So we spent 5 months in WA, went down through the bottom, saw my family that I've got in Esperance, which we've done that trip across the Nullarbor quite a few times.
Yep.
Went across there and then essentially spent a bit of time in the bottom end of WA.
How was that?
Pardon?
How was that?
Oh, awesome. Yeah, it's really cool. We went down to even just little cool moments, like going down to the old whaling centre in Albany. Went down there. The kids learnt so much about how we used to harpoon the whales and bring them in, and all the sharks that used to follow them in. And just the knowledge we now have of the significance of certain towns and places around Australia was really, really cool.
There's a lot out there.
Oh, there's heaps. And Australia's had some pretty cool stuff happen sort of around that coastline and there's as much inland as what there is around the coast, but it was, for me who never really got out of Wollonga, work was my life. It was definitely pretty cool to sort of get out and spend the time with the family, but also just see things that are out of the ordinary. I love just to get up. My last 10 years, I've got up at 5 a.m. every single day. That's just my alarm clock. That's what time I get out of bed. It's when I do my book work. It's when I do gym. If I do get a chance to do gym, it's just a couple of hours every single day to do something that I need to do without distractions, because of course the wife and kids,
great, isn't it?
They sleep in until 6:30, 7 o'clock, whatever the time is, and I get that early morning start, my coffee and my own time in the mornings. So I was still doing that on the road. I'd get out of the caravan and shoot off, which sort of worked really well through the bottom end of WA. But then as we sort of started going up WA coastline, we got to Cowbarry and the Flies.
Where's Cowbarry?
Sort of halfway up the WA coastline.
So you went from Esperance?
Yeah, Esperance down around the bottom.
Around you followed the coast to Perth? Did you spend much time in Perth, or did you go through?
We went through Bustleton and
Bustleton's
Dunsborough and Margaret River. We spent about 6 weeks in that bottom area, and it was just gorgeous.
We just got back from Bustleton for the Ironman.
Yes.
Boston's amazing.
It's a cool spot.
Yeah.
It's sort of the hustle and bustle. I reckon it's a little bit like sort of what Glenelg is for Adelaide, I feel. It's a little bit sort of that.
Yeah, except it's 3 hours drive.
Correct. It's not just around the corner. Yeah. But I think a lot of people from Perth travel down to Bustleton to have their holidays and spend their sort of time down there.
Bustleton, Bunbury, Margaret River.
There's some pretty flash houses down there as well.
Dude. Yeah,
Some of them are huge on the
it's all
Esplanade.
that mining money.
Yeah. Actually, WA, I did notice that every single cafe, restaurant, winery, whatever it was over there, they've all got huge playgrounds and they're set up for families,
Yeah.
which I think comes from that mining money.
Well, yeah, it does. So they're trying to attract. There's all these
Yeah.
ads as well. There's a huge labour shortage.
Yes.
Like trades over there are paid extremely well, and they just can't get enough of them. So
Yeah.
they're trying to set up that family image, and then so people can fly their family over, work in the mines, make $1 million, and
Yep.
build that lifestyle.
Yeah, which makes a lot of sense. I feel like Adelaide here, where we are, we're a little bit behind the times with that side of things. Like,
Oh, dude, Adelaide house prices are still higher than Perth house prices, and their income. This is going to be a bit hyperbolic, but I feel like their income is like fucking double.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So everybody, you've just got everybody that works in mining and the amount of like Land Cruisers, 79 series, jet skis,
Yes.
boats. It's pretty unbelievable over there.
yeah, there's a lot of toys. I did notice that through the bottom end there of WA.
Oh yeah.
So no, it was a really cool place. We really, really enjoyed heading through that area. And then as we started going up, of course, hit Kalbarri, and that's when the flies set in.
Sorry, so where's Kalbarri?
Halfway up the coastline. So as
Okay,
you
so
sort of
about
going
3 or 4 hours north of
off
Perth. Yep.
Yes. So we got up there and, of course, the flies were horrendous. It was fly nets over the head, and my 2-year-old would not put a fly net on. So she had flies in her eyes, in and around her mouth. It was, I couldn't handle it. I'm trying to swipe flies off of her.
It takes me back to my childhood. So we camped all over Australia.
Yep.
Similar thing to what you did, but we did it in little individual trips. And yeah, I remember some of those places. The flies are insane, and you've got those hats with.
Yes,
yeah.
correct. Yeah, which hence the big Cobra, mate. I thought I'd bring that along. I
Yeah,
wasn't
nice.
sure which hat I was wearing today, whether it was my
Yeah.
PPH electrical hat or whether it was my my Cobra.
Yeah,
But yeah, the flies.
you're a
sort
true
of-
Aussie now after your trip.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I feel like it.
Yeah,
The flies definitely. We were told by a lot of locals that this is as bad as we've seen them for a few years, and of course, I didn't know whether they were just saying that, but my sister's currently doing a lap of Australia at the moment, so
Oh, wow.
they've just been through the Exmouth area, and they said that they didn't have hardly a fly. So we were there at the same time last year, and of course, flies were everywhere. If you rocked up at a spot and you opened the doors, you got hit by flies, you thought to yourself, are we wanting to stay here, or do we want to keep moving on and go and find somewhere else that doesn't have as many flies? Because it was funny, what they did definitely have a lot of locations that the flies weren't as bad, but some places they were thick. And you was
so that's up at Exmouth as well.
all the way through.
How was Exmouth? What'd you do there?
Well, we went through Coral Bay first, and that place was absolutely incredible. The snorkeling, swimming with reef sharks, turtles.
Is that near Monkey Mire? Where's Monkey Mire?
Monkey Mire's below. So
Yeah.
we went up into Monkey Mire, went through Shell Beach,
Yeah.
Monkey Mire, Shark Bay. And that was sort of our first place that we started to see the marine life. You'd go down to the jetty. The water there was quite green when we were there, so you couldn't really see the bottom, but we saw some huge loggerhead turtles floating around, like I'm talking a metre wide sort of thing. They were massive. And a lot of reef sharks, and it was the marine life out there. We saw dugongs as well. So it was really, really cool. That was where the kids started to see a lot of pretty cool, like whether it was on the land or in the ocean, there was a lot of animals sort of.
Yeah.
It is very remote out there, and you can see why they would love just to live out there. There's not much around.
So do you know Perth is the most remote capital in the world?
Is it really? Mm-hmm. I did not know that.
Most remote capital city in the whole world.
Yeah, there you go. Well, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a long way from a lot.
Yeah, we look at America, they've got so many capital cities, and like everywhere else, the countries are right next to each other, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I thought about with when we were in Broome, because Broome was halfway between Darwin and Perth.
Yep.
And Broome is a long way from everything.
Yeah.
Like that would have to be almost one of the furthest places from a capital city.
Yeah, is Broome near Karratha and stuff?
Closer.
You know
Karratha's closer to Darwin than what Broome is.
You know the whole map now, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Well, I try to remember all the names. I mean, WA, I actually feel like I do remember a lot of it, but down the East Coast, there's that many towns and locations the whole way down.
Yeah.
It's hard to sort of.
So WA was a lot more obviously secluded.
Well, WA, you drive for 3 or 4, 5, 6 hours at a time sometimes just between towns. So you sort of had to find your locations you were going to go to, which is where Lauren, my wife, was fantastic. She'd jump on, what was it, Wiki? What was the different? She used a few different social platforms to be able to obviously find locations to stay, and Wiki camps, that's what it was.
Yep.
Sorry, I don't know why I had a mental blank then. She'd use wiki camps a lot and obviously find places that we could either stay for nothing or low-cost camping or places that were trustworthy. People use that like their Bible out there.
Yeah, okay.
So, of course, you'd look it up and there'd be 5 different places you could stay in a town, and some have got 5-star reviews, some have got
What's it called?
1-star
Wiki
reviews.
camps.
Wiki camps.
Okay, cool.
So, yeah, just a good place. People jump on and they edit it every day. So people can go on there and at least, see where they can stay and when the last review was, whether it was a month ago, 2 weeks ago, a year ago.
So how long was the whole Western Australia?
So we did 5 months in WA.
Holy shit.
So a long time. A lot of our trip was spent in WA.
Yeah.
And it's the one place that I want to go back to. I absolutely loved WA. So that top end, we got through to Monkey Mire, then around into Coral Bay. Coral Bay was sort of where all the snorkeling and the amazing experiences sort of started. I found in WA, a lot of the stuff you do, you have to find your own fun. You go out there and it doesn't cost us a lot of money, essentially. You've got to go out and be creative and full drive. And
there's not like a tour guide with 50 things to choose from and you pay them a couple $100. You've got to go.
Yeah, we just got to go find things. We actually did a really cool thing on our trip where we went to information centres all around Australia. So Lauren organised for the kids a little information book that you get stamps. So the whole way around Australia, every information centre's got this special passport stamp, it's called. So, of course, everywhere we went, we'd go straight away to the information centre, find out what the do's and don'ts are in the area, where we should go, what we should see. And it was an awesome way for us to get to know a little bit of local knowledge without having to go to the pub, for instance, and try and find a local and say, what do we do? We're in the area. What should we be getting up to? Or we've only got 3 days here with young kids. What's the best thing to do? So the information centre gave us all of that info.
That's awesome.
Which was so good. So then we'd go, obviously, they'd give you a million pamphlets.
How far in advance had you planned? Like, would you just rock up at a town, go to the information centre, and then just make a plan?
Lauren's very funny with not having a plan. She doesn't like having no plans.
Yeah.
So
Jess and I get this. Like, when we go on holiday, especially like overseas, I'm like, we're not fucking booking anything. I want to get there, and then we'll just see the landscape, and we'll just play it day by day.
Yeah, for sure. I'm like that.
Yeah.
I would much rather just go with the flow. But then there's a lot of places where your key spots, they book out 6 months in advance. We actually had to get online at 2:00 SA time, 6 months prior, 180 days prior, to book certain campgrounds. So, of course, midnight WA time when it opens is 2:00 at our time.
180 days prior.
180 days prior. So, and we'd had to get up. You don't even book one night at a time. So, of course, we were getting up at 2 a.m. 6 months earlier every night for the time we wanted to spend in these certain places in the national parks through WA.
Yeah, right. They're just that popular.
They're that popular. Yeah, and you can leave it to chance when you get there, but people do miss out. So essentially you can leave it to chance and you can be on the website every day. The WA National Parks website's quite hard to navigate through and it's people, you don't get reimbursed. So it's low cost camping, but you don't get reimbursed for cancellations or for not rocking up. So people don't bother to cancel. So there can be a lot of free sites in a campground where people have booked it, paid for it at 15, 20, 30 bucks a night. And then if they've decided they want to keep moving on or they don't like the spot or they want to do something else, they don't cancel it, but they've still paid for that spot. So you can't then go and use that spot because it's booked out.
Yeah. So that's interesting.
So some people obviously do cancel, which if they've had certain things pop up, cars break down, things go not to plan, they do cancel their spot. So then stuff does open up, but whether that suits your schedule or not, hence we had to sort of have our key things booked in. But there was a lot of places that we'd only call up a few days beforehand and just say, have you got any availability? And if they were fully booked, then we'd call somewhere else. And of course, you'd always be able to get in somewhere.
Yeah, well, that's what I was about to say. So my dad, I don't know if you know, he lives in Perth now.
Yep.
And him and his wife will drive up to Exmouth.
Yep.
And they did it recently and they went up there with no plan. They couldn't get anywhere. They slept in their car. There was no accommodation.
Really?
Yeah.
And they obviously went at the peak season, I'm
guessing.
guessing.
Yeah, I think so. But I think that was before he had his caravan, so I think they were just trying to get a hotel. They weren't even trying to camp.
Okay. Yeah, I would have thought that those sort of places would probably book out.
Definitely.
Because I know it's been very hot up there as of late. I mean, when we were in Exmouth, we had a month of 40 degrees. So it was very, very hot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and a lot of people that travel in your troopies or your vans, a month straight of 40. That was tough. Every day was just a matter of surviving.
Yeah.
Which sounds sort of horrible, but it wasn't. It was really cool to actually find water, places to swim, go to information centres with aircons, sit in your car, go for a drive, look at things, have the aircon
It's
on.
just time with your family. So
Correct.
So you're 5 months in. Can
Yep.
I ask how was the relationship with the family? How were the kids getting along? How were you getting along with the kids? Was there fighting? You know?
There was standard kids fighting, all of the above. I got sick to death of yelling at my two oldest kids to say, you've only got each other.
Yeah.
There's no point fighting against one another because it's just the two of you out here. Like the first 4 months, I feel like were a little bit of a blur. We were in a very happy place. It was amazing out on the road. We were loving it. It took me 4 months to actually find myself with business to switch off. So,
Wow, that's so interesting. Because I don't think I've switched off for 10 years.
Yeah, honestly, it was that 4 month mark where I started to actually go, I wonder how the business is doing and I wonder what's going on at home. I've caught up on some sleep. I actually feel like Tyson again. I was starting to have some really good quality time with the kids, but it did take me 4 months to actually get past the way that I run myself into the ground with the lead up.
Yeah.
It was hard enough on me that I still had to obviously get up every day and deal with your standard kids and life and getting the van on the road. And the biggest task was to get the van from point A to point B safely without crashing or doing anything wrong or hitting potholes or, obviously being stuck in your car with your kids. You do have your moments. They've learned a few swear words that Daddy's now never really said.
Yeah.
But yeah.
They've learned that, Daddy regrets his life.
It was the relationships that I now have with my children. I can communicate with them. They can have adult conversations. It's really, really cool. So something that I did learn was Elena, my oldest, she's a go-getter. She'll go out and she'll play with anyone. Dad, can I make friends? Yep, go for it, sweetheart. Off you go. She's really, really out there. Hallie wasn't so much. When we first left, she would sit in the corner and I'd constantly be saying to Elena, please take your sister with you. Please include her. You need to try and do what you can to make sure that she is playing as well. And of course, Hallie was just nervous. She just didn't go out and do those things. After about sort of 3 or 4 months, she started to learn that if I want to go and have fun and play, I'm going to have to go and do it myself. So then at that sort of turning point of 4 months, she really started to open up and start to become herself as well, which was really cool. And she'd be constantly asking, Daddy, can I please go and play with these kids? Or can I go to the playground and go and make some friends? Which was really special for me to sort of see. And it changed her as a human from being out on the road and doing these things as well. She's got a lot more confidence now and she can actually get out and do things that she wasn't doing when we first left.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was good.
So after WA, what's next?
Well, the last thing I will say is that in WA, we went and swam with the whale sharks in Exmouth. That was definitely a bucket list sort of thing that we did.
Jess and I have that on our bucket list.
You have got it? Yeah. And we had Elena and Hallie, so my oldest two, come out with us and do it in the water.
Oh, really?
How
old were they at the time?
7 and 4.
Wow.
And we had
4?
Yeah, 4. So
Did she got in the water?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So Hallie, my middle child, the one that I was just saying that's come out of her skin. So we had to teach them how to use goggles and snorkels and not be scared in the water. And at this point, my mum and dad had actually flown up. So they stayed with us for a week in Exmouth. So we hired a house. We got out of the van. We sort of just jumped back in the house again, which was amazing. The van was out the front in the driveway. And we did the whale sharks with them. So they were able to look after Willow for us because we had enough times in the water where they would do it with the whale sharks and we'd have the 2-year-old. And then I would obviously jump in the water with Elena or Hallie, and then they would have the 2-year-old. So it worked really, really well. But we had an 8.5 metre whale shark that was just cruising along, and myself and my 7 and 4-year-old in the water with it, just gliding by. And now you ask,
how were they?
Pardon?
How were they when
they were fine?
They didn't
honestly,
freak out?
No, they didn't freak out. They saw this huge beast just cruising through the water. It was one of those moments that you don't have time to think. You sort of. They have the choppers going over top. They spot a whale shark. They're on the UHF. The boat's full steam ahead. You go on full noise to try and find this thing. You get there. They throw someone in the water. All sorts of hand signals are coming out. Someone's in the boat yelling at you, go, 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 get there, swim, head up, follow the guy at the front. And of course, all of a sudden, look down. You look down, there's this huge beast in the water and you swim with it. So there's not really any time to think. You just do it and you just jump in and you look down, you can't see the bottom. You're in 30, 40, 50, 80 metres of water. you don't think about what else could be down there. You're looking at this huge beast in front of you.
Yeah.
But now Hallie's, my 4-year-old, her favourite animal is a whale shark. And that's so special that she even knows what a whale shark is. But yeah, whenever you ask her, because I've, of course, sat the kids down throughout the trip and asked them 10 or 12 different questions at certain points of the trip. And whenever I asked, what's your favourite animal you've seen, or what is your favourite animal, hers was, from that moment onwards, a whale shark. She just loved how cruisy they were in the water and how big and beautiful they were to see. So
That's awesome.
very special sort of moments like that we, shared as a family that will stay with her forever. So, but yeah, so we did Exmouth, and then we went around into Broome from there. Went through Carangini and Tom Price, did a big mining tour where a lot of the coal mine up there that's all transported to the ports and then out of Australia. It was very cool to see. They're huge operations, and I haven't seen anything like that before. Carangini, they're flat land. You're driving along, there's not a mountain in sight, and then all of a sudden these huge big crevices in the land just open up, and there's waterfalls and beautiful palms and incredible scenery that I mean, I've never seen anything like that before. And
it's easy to not realise that that kind of scenery is actually in Australia.
Yeah, correct.
Like if you just get stuck in day-to-day life.
100% you do. So yeah, we were sort of all through WA. It was just such an exciting time. We met beautiful families on the road because in WA, everyone's going to the same locations. So, of course, you see the same families over and over again, and everyone's heading clockwise. You're not going back down at that point. Otherwise, you're heading back to winter. So everyone's doing the same trip, which made it very special that you'd actually see kids on the playground that were the same kids, and my kids are playing with their kids. And then all of a sudden you see the adults, and the amount of people we met through the kids playing on a playground was really cool. But we've definitely made some lifelong friends that we've met in WA. And, of course, a lot of them were from the East Coast. So once we got around to the East Coast, we then were able to go to their house and spend time with them at their properties, and them show us around their local town. But that all done SA. So we obviously didn't know any of these people. Yeah. So they didn't see us until they were in WA. So, of course, we were like, oh, what do you do in SA? And they'd tell us, and we'd be like, oh, we wish we could have taken you here. So it was really cool to meet these people in Western Australia, and then, of course, share more memories with them back in their hometown. So that side of travelling is really, really special.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was cool. So, yeah, we went from Exmouth through to Carangini and then around to Broome. And Broome was one of those towns that I was a little bit nervous about. I been told some stories from a lot of people, and, of course, we had a couple of families that rocked up before us, and their kids had stepped on a needle on a playground, and there was all sorts of worries.
The crackdown.
Well, I didn't see that side of it when I got there, but that's what we thought we were coming into. So we'd done a lot of dirt roads leading up to Broome. We first pulled in. I tried to find a car wash. Of course, I wanted to give everything a clean before we went and set up at the caravan park. And I left Lauren and the kids in the car while I went and checked out whether we could get through a car wash. Lock the car, don't move, stay there. I don't know what this place is like. I was very nervous driving into Broome. We got in there and, of course, locked everything up, did all the right things. Within a week of being in Broome, I felt like I was at home. It was an awesome place.
Yeah. That's like Mount Gambier is meant to be like the ice capital of Australia, isn't it? I love Mount Gambier. I think it's awesome. That's interesting.
It is a very cool place. But so then we had Lauren's parents actually meet us up there in Broome for a week. So that was very special. We got to share a very cool place with them, which that was some of the best parts about traveling, that we didn't have a 5-week stint without seeing somebody from back home or family that flew over and came and saw us. 5 weeks.
5-week stint.
No, 5 weeks was the longest we went without seeing someone from back home, which I think helped the whole homesick thing.
Must have a lot of family.
We've got family and friends that are incredible that were so keen to come and see us on our big trip. Lauren's mum and dad did 4 1-week trips throughout the year. So they came and saw us at 4 different locations, and they were all locations that one they've been to before, but the other 3 they didn't really picture themselves ever going to, and then got there and loved it. The same with my mum and dad. They did 2 trips to come and see the grandies who they missed. Obviously, they couldn't believe we were taking them away from them for 12 months. But they went over to Exmouth, like I said, and absolutely loved it because they always wanted to go there, but weren't sure when or if it would ever happen. But we sort of forced them to get over there, and we got to share those experiences with them. But we also had friends and other family members that flew over and caught up with us as well. So we were sharing our experiences the whole way around Australia.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so
Now-
then we left Broome, we went across the Gibb River Road, which was another absolute highlight.
What?
The Gibb River Road.
Gibb River Road. What is that?
It's a 660 kilometre dirt road
Mm-hmm.
that goes from Derby through to Kununurra. Essentially, we went across the Gibb River Road, and you've got to have a caravan and a big enough four-wheel drive that can get you across there, because not any car will get. The corrugations are horrible. It's a lot of dirt. You get to see some remote, beautiful waterfalls and locations, but you got to work for it to get there. So a lot of people, it's called the van killer. A lot of people break caravans and smash cars to pieces.
Yeah. So did you take the dirt or did you take the...
No, we took the dirt. Yeah, that is the Gibb River Road, is the dirt. So that was the highlight of my trip. The things that we saw out there, the people that we met, there was gorges. We did actually, we were traveling with another family.
People are out there?
Oh, heaps, people. But it's only open certain parts of the year, because in the wet season, the in and out access is all underwater. You can't get in and out because of the amount of water they have through there. So they have 16-metre tides up in Derby.
Wow.
So on the daily, they've got water coming in and out, 16 metres worth of volume of water. It's absolutely phenomenal to see.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we fell in love with the big boab trees through that area. It was,
they're amazing.
Oh, gorgeous. Yeah, they're very cool trees. But it was through there that we did the horizontal falls as well. We flew up and did that, which was really, really cool.
What's that?
Horizontal falls essentially is a large volume of water which goes between a 21-metre crevice and creates a horizontal waterfall. So you've got a water difference of about 1.5 metres, can be up to 2.5 metres of water difference that it's rushing through. So much water is trying to push through such a small crevice into a huge lake on the other side that it creates that whitewash and the look of a waterfall through.
And that's just a constant?
Yep, every day the waters are going in and out. So obviously it pumps it up, fills it up, and the tides go out and it sucks it all back out again.
Oh, wow.
It's a really, really cool site actually, and you drive a boat through it. So they've got a 1,200 horsepower speedboat that they take through this thing. There's 4 300 horsepower motors on the back.
Where is this?
Oh, up the top near Derby. So up in the...
And there's big towns up there and stuff like that.
That we flew into that one from Broome, so that was out sort of near where the Gibb River Road is where that horizontal falls is.
Okay.
So it's absolutely incredible. That was another highlight of the trip. But so going along the Gibb River Road, we travelled with another family, so I've sort of figured that everyone up the WA coast always talks about how you got to try and jump in with someone else, and you want to, are you going to do the Gibb River Road? Yeah, we'll go with you. What dates are you looking at doing it? And obviously, it's always safety in numbers. You've got twice the amount of tools, twice the amount of bits and pieces on hand. I probably spent more time fixing other people's vans than what I spent fixing my own, because our rig actually held up really, really well.
Yeah.
So we got through there with, I think I snapped one hose fitting where a rock's flicked up and hit a hose fitting and snapped it off, but I had a backup. So, of course, I put that on and, we were unscathed. But I saw caravans coming out the other end with one tyre and rim completely missing off of the caravan. Really? I saw a lot of people lost water tanks. So
how bad was it?
Yeah, the corrugations were probably a good 200 mil of corrugation. And
how did the kids put up with it?
Oh, you just let your tyres down and do the speeds. You're sort of doing anywhere from 30 to maybe 50 kilometres an hour along there, and you sort of can get yourself on top of the corrugations, and it loses a little bit of that, but your suspension's working overtime.
Yeah, gotcha.
So there's water crossings. We had the caravan in up to, I reckon it was about 900 of water, which is quite deep, but we've got a full off-road caravan. So of course we were fine. I didn't have any issues. But the biggest thing is water. All of WA, you've got to make sure you can get good drinking water, and you've got to be so precious with your water, because there's not a lot of places that have good filter systems to be able to actually get that water out of the ground or get it from wherever they get it from and actually filter it so you can drink it. Yeah. So people that lose water tanks and potentially lose all their water, they're desperate. They need water.
I get you.
So
how much water are you carrying?
I got 300 litres, so 3 100-litre tanks. Mm-hmm. So when we're off-grid, that'll last us. We all like to shower at least just once a day, whether that's just a quick squirt off and a soap. But that would last us 5 days at an absolute max with the kids. So we used our washing basket, which is a fold up and down washing basket, to wash the kids in. We'd fill that up with 100 ml of water, and then all three of them would go through that, and Loz and I would squirt ourselves off in the shower, soap up, and that was about done. So, But the electricity side of things, we had ample power. I set all that up before I left, so we had 240 volt, heaps of power. But the water is the first thing you run out of.
Gotcha.
So going across the Gib River Road, there's only certain fill-up points, so there's massive lineups and people trying to fill up on these special water spots.
There's that many people out there?
Yeah, there's heaps. Like, it is... We passed a lot of people.
Oh, that's mind-boggling.
And everyone's doing the same thing, which is the coolest part. Everyone is just trying to talk about how they can get through from one end of this road to the other. It's like a mission just to try and get through. But it's something that once you can... There's that many stickers up there. I've completed the Gib River Road. Like,
yeah. So how many days does it take you to get across that?
we did it in 13 days.
Oh, wow.
So 12 nights.
So if you wanted to do it from here, I mean, it'd take you a week to drive up there.
Yeah, correct. Depending on how many days... And how many big days you want to do of driving.
So if I decided to do it tomorrow, obviously I'd have to get the car set up, but you leave for at least a month.
Yes, you'd have to,
Yeah.
100%. At an absolute minimum, it'd be a week to get there,
Yeah.
and a week to get home. Problem is that where the Gib River Road is from here, there's no direct line to get straight through to there because
That's why I'm so surprised that there's so many people there.
Yeah, but it's sort of the only way to get through. From SA, we're right in that awkward spot where we've got to go either up to Darwin or across to Perth to get to where it is.
Yep.
Whereas people from either Queensland can go across the top to get there. Or
Yeah, but you're talking about...
Oh, it's huge, yeah. It's
3,500 Ks.
It's in the middle of nowhere, yeah. But I think that's what makes it so special.
Okay.
Is that you've got people that are out there that have had to work pretty hard to get there, that all are appreciating all the waterfalls, the swimming holes. We had to go through, one of the stories was Tunnel Creek is a place that we rocked up. We were told to go from one end to the other. You've got to go the whole way through and pop out the other side, but there is a section you've got to swim across, and there is freshwater crocodiles in there. So try not to look.
What do you mean? This is a walk?
No. We swam across with freshies in the water with the kids.
Yeah, but what do you mean?
This is a tunnel. So we essentially got to this tunnel that went through the side of a huge hill.
Yeah.
And there was water flowing through it. And we had to get from one side to the other walking through this tunnel. So it's called Tunnel Creek. So we had 2 families, 6 kids between us. And we had a surfboard, like a foam surfboard that one of the guys was carrying. I said, let's take that with us, chuck that in, because I reckon we're going to need that to get the kids across. So this water was over my head. It was deeper than 6 foot. And we've been told about the freshies, but we've been told that they won't go near you as long as you don't go near them.
Yeah, freshies are fine. As long as you don't step on one, you're all right.
Yeah, but in Darwin, up in the top end there in NT, they freak out about freshies. Like all the swimming holes there, if there's a freshie, they shut everything down.
Yep.
So it's sort of in WA, if there's a freshwater crocodile, they just go, he won't touch you, he won't bite much. Whereas, it depends on what state you're in as to whether they take it.
Well, I mean, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, but what I've heard is if you get close to them, that's when they're going to get you, right? So it depends. Like they're not going to hunt you out and kill you, but if you accidentally get too close to them, then they'll defend themselves.
Yeah, correct. So if you were to kick one, or if accidentally, or if you're swimming, or you hit it, or they would bite you.
Yeah, or if you go up to a watering hole to get some water and you startle the thing, it's going to go you.
Correct.
Yeah.
Whereas the salties are obviously they'll
fuck you up.
Yeah.
They'll eat you, your dog, and your family. They don't
Correct.
give a fuck.
They are horrible animals. They're very fascinating. I'm fascinated by the salties, but
they're fucking dinosaurs.
They are. They're very cool to look at, but from a distance.
Oh, dude.
Especially with kids.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's the shame about Darwin. You just live on this beautiful coastline, but
it's incredible.
You're so scared to get in the water.
Yeah, that's where I think in Darwin, if I was to ever live in Darwin, I'd want a boat. Because you can get out to islands, you can get out off the mainland, and then you can at least...
Oh, can you?
Yeah, well, if you go far enough out,
there's
the crocodiles only go out so far into the salt, they've got to get back into the natural, obviously the creeks and the back into the mangroves, because they can only stand so long in the salt water before they they got to go back into the mangroves.
Gotcha.
So, I mean... We went through this tunnel, we went through and we found there was a lot of crystallization happening in there as well with all the water droplets. It was so fascinating. I bumped into a local guy that he told me about a few spots to look at in this Tunnel Creek. We found all these different little locations. There was Aboriginal paintings. There was all sorts there. We saw lizards, we saw snakes, we saw all sorts. It was really, really cool. A very fascinating thing to take the kids and experience to go through, but it was full head torches. It was pitch black in there.
Yep.
So that was just one thing along the Gib River Road, another huge gorge that the guy I was travelling with, he actually went to the Olympics, half-pipe snowboarding. So, of course, he has no fear with heights. Yeah. So we went to a gorge where it would have been 20 meters high. We sort of worked out with measuring him on a photo and timesing it by how many of hims there would have been.
It's always a good measurement.
Yeah, well, rough enough, roughly 20 meters. And he went to, we were all sitting down the bottom swimming, and he went, I'm going to jump off that rock. Of course, went over, checked the depth, swam down, went, yeah, I'm good to go. So, of course, he's run off and not just jumped off it, he's decided to sort of barrel roll off of it because that's what he enjoys doing, is flipping and turning. It scared me. And, of course, he swam back over, and he was obviously running on adrenaline and went, that was wild. I want to do that again, but I just want to lay back and do a backflip. Said to him, all right, if you're willing to do that, I'll come up and I'll just do a pin drop. I'll jump off it. Of course, it was a fair trek to get all the way around there again.
Well, you don't want to do too much of a pin drop because you just shoot down.
Yeah, correct. So, of course, we ran back around. Everyone was watching, and it's the highest thing I've ever jumped off. And as I hit the water, my legs, of course, opened outwards. So my groins were all hurting, and it was it was a hell of a drop. And
I've done that plenty of times before and ripped my shorts in too. Yeah.
It seemed like a good idea at the time. Of course, Lauren was panicking that she was going to be a widow, single parent, driving out of there.
She's fucked. She's in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, correct, exactly. And she
what happens if you hurt yourself?
They can get helicopters out there, but you'd be a fair while in a lot of pain. Safe to say it's probably not the brightest thing to be doing.
So this is a bit off topic, but one of my bucket list items is that what's that country? Why can I never remember? Near Croatia and Serbia.
Okay.
Is it Bulgaria? I don't sound like an idiot here, but anyway, there's a famous bridge that it's basically a rite of passage. As you become a man, you jump off this bridge, and it's fucking huge.
Yeah.
And Red Bull have diving competitions and stuff there. That's on my bucket list. Yeah.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
You obviously don't mind jumping off big things.
No, I don't give a shit. Yeah, I used to do a lot of it. So yeah.
I reckon I used to do a lot more than nowadays. When I look at it, I could go, oh, I could hurt myself if I did that.
Well, as long as I know the water's deep, I'm fine. Yeah. If there's any risk of there being rocks under there, I've got.
Well, that was the only thing. I mean, I was running off of Nate. His name was. He's like, no, you just straight down there. It's all clear. I've checked it. The water was brown and murky.
Yep.
So of course I went off of what he said, and in we went.
Bosnia.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, nice. So then, of course, he jumped in after me, turned around and just laid back and did an awesome backflip off the top of it, and everyone was cheering and yelling. And, just those cool experiences, though, that we did have.
Did you jump?
Yeah, I pinned dropped in.
Right.
Yeah, the legs split open. But yes, I did my pathetic jump, and he, of course, did flips and all sorts behind me. But that side of it was just cool. But like I said, you find your own fun out there. WA, it's one of those places that you can just go and explore. You just... whatever you want to do, you'll get the enjoyment out of it. So you just have to see what you can find.
Awesome.
But campfires of a night. And just enjoying quality time together. Everyone seems to go to bed pretty early, and then everyone's always up when the sun comes up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and everyone's into it.
So, I mean, it's funny, we started off the conversation talking about kind of business and fears, but then you're talking about this travel side, and I'm just like, that sounds so awesome. You know what I mean? Like, it literally, like, the time of your life, quite literally.
100%.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to think about, my fears of walking away from the business or anything happening, restricting me from doing something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's one of those things that if you talk about it and you don't do it, then you will never do it. You have to sort of almost just go, I'm going to make this happen. Well, that's how I made it happen anyway. Me personally, I need to just go, this is what I'm doing, and I'm going to do whatever I need to do to make it actually happen.
Yeah, I mean, and I tend to be pretty good at that. But a year.
Well, that was what I was going to say to you is obviously we left WA and we've gone up into Darwin, which we love Darwin, been there many times. And that first 6 months, we only spent 5 weeks in NT because we had to get through to Queensland to meet some other friends, which was fine. We've done plenty in NT before. But the traveling through there for 6 months was incredible and a highlight. I think I then flew home at the middle of the year. So one of my workers, that's right. We went down to the pub and had a beer. But we went to, what was I going to say? One of my workers went away. He had his honeymoon. So of course he went away for 6 weeks. So I flew home in the middle of the year and did 2 weeks on the tools. Back home just to help the business. We hadn't had the best start to the year. So of course when I got the phone call from the GM to say, we've got heaps of work on, but we've got no staff to do it now. What do I do?
So it's flipped.
And so I just went, well, we need the work done. It's schools that we work for all the time. we can't let them down. I'll just fly back. And of course he went, oh, you sure? I was like, yeah, all good. I sort of was looking forward to a bit of a mental break as well away. Like that 6-month mark was, we were having the time of our lives, but I sort of went, if I go home, I reckon I'll appreciate. We were starting to take a little bit for granted what we were doing. It was just every day was a holiday. Every day was an activity. I wanted to go back home. I was excited to go back home and see friends and family that I hadn't seen, go back on the tools, see what the business is doing. Of course, I flew back and I did a few jobs for some customers that I've worked for a long time. And they said to me that is the calmest, most natural form of Tyson I've ever seen in my life. They said, you looked happy. Like they said, you genuinely looked happy and you looked like you were yourself. You didn't look stressed. You didn't look like, and but that sort of, now after being home, I'm back to what I was before I left, and it's sort of
look, that doesn't surprise me. Like all you need is 6 months traveling. With your family.
When you put it like that, I suppose it sounds like a stupid comment.
No, it's good. It's interesting.
But it was very cool to actually have somebody notice that side of it, which is something that I probably didn't notice the change, but somebody else from the outside noticing that makes me think that I don't want to be this stressful person that's always under the pump, that's always getting slammed. I really enjoyed being that person, not that is a sustainable lifestyle, of course, being on the road and traveling full time with your family. I mean, some people don't seem to make it work, but...
Well, this goes to exactly what we were speaking about before, right? Like as far as, continuously shifting the goalpost from a materialistic perspective, you know what I mean? Like I feel like I keep signing myself up for shit that's going to make me be that stressed. And I push it so far that I get to a level where people go, you need to chill out. Down. You look like you're about to have a nervous breakdown. I go, yeah, I feel like it, but I've overcommitted. So I'm constantly playing in that like anxiety, high stress to extreme burnout. And, especially hearing your story, it's like I've gotten better. But yeah, I need to get, I think I want to keep changing my life.
Yeah, definitely.
To get to that. So like now, like do you feel yourself getting back to that stress point and
100% I'm there now, yeah.
Okay.
Right as we speak. And it's been business since I've been home. I have not enjoyed being at home at all. I wish we stayed on the road. In saying that, there's been some huge changes in the business since I've been home, but I'm back to doing stupid long hour days, and it's my mental side of things that goes, you've just got to do this. You've done it for years. You can do it. Just put your shorts on each morning, put your work shirt on, and go to work.
So I think there's like a big difference between like, I don't know if this is going to make sense, but I'm going to try to explain it. There's the logical conversations you can have, and there's the subconscious telling you, right? So like my subconscious keeps telling me, you're not good enough. You just need to do this, rah, rah. But then like logically, if I talk about it, I go, well, I don't actually need to work that many hours. We've got enough money. My life's going to be objectively better if I'm home. So what I'm asking is, do you think like logically you'd need to do that right now? Or is it, do you just feel the need to be successful again? Does that make sense? Do you get what I'm trying to?
Yeah, definitely. I think probably the biggest part for me is that when we went into the offset accounts last year, and obviously did spend a lot of money on the road. We didn't do it half-assed. We did the trip properly because we don't know how long until we're going to come back here. One, we've got to stay afloat as a business. We've had a few changes and a few things that have happened. But two, in my head, I've got this new challenge to pay back what we've borrowed for the holiday last year. So I think I put that stress on myself to go, you've got to pay that back, and it's got to be paid back reasonably quickly so you can start to look forward to the next one. But I don't think I have to. One? Well, when I say the next one, the next thing as a family, the next, whatever that looks like, I'm not sure what we want to do as a family, but I want to work out what that's going to be. So I've got that new goal and that new sort of thing in my head as to, all right, this is what we're working towards. Whether that's just we go away once a year for a month in the caravan, or we go away twice a year for a month and just spend some quality family time together. Or whether it's a 1-2 month trip a year, or whilst we've got the caravan and the kids thoroughly enjoy it, they're at the right age where they can do the caravanning side of life. Once they sort of get to that teenage part of their life, they may have their own sporting commitments, friends, family of their own that they want to spend time with, and it's a bit harder to pull them away for a month or 2 months at a time.
So, I mean, this is the hard thing about having young kids, right? I think like a lot of men, well, I see this in myself, but I see it in a lot of men. They'll have kids, and then you get the fear in you, like, oh shit, I've got to provide a good life for my family, and then you're working your ass off, and you end up just working all the time. But they're also the years, like you kind of alluded to, that you want to be as present as you possibly can. So yeah, again, I mean, that's the battle that I internally have as well. Like, you're like, oh, I need to provide this awesome life, but also like, I also need to be at home as much as possible, especially in these ages, because when they're older, like you said, they're going to be going off and doing their own thing. So you can never get these years back.
No, correct. And I think that's where I'm playing with my mental battle at the moment is I don't want to be at work for 15 hours a day at this current point of my kid's life, because once they go to school, they're all at school. I can work from 8 o'clock in the morning through till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'm not actually missing out on any quality time with them. I'll see them before school, I'll see them out of school, and still see the kids and still be that father that's there for them, but I can actually go to work and do those hours and not feel guilty about doing them as such, where you're not around at all and you're not seeing them much.
Yeah. So all my kids are at school, and I do this thing where I'll come home and, make sure I have great conversations with them about how the day was and stuff like that. But then I catch myself going, oh, you just need to do this. And then I'm back on my computer doing work. And it's almost like subconscious for me. Do you know what I mean? Like it's almost my comfortable space to go back and start working, right? So it's just something I need to get over.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the first part of it, is just to talk about it and trying to come to the realization in your own head that that's what you do.
Yeah, well, but then the other side of it is what I spoke about before, right? Is getting into, this is my restless nature, is taking on projects that actually force you to need to do those hours, right?
I'm guessing you're like me though. Once you say you're going to do something, then you have to do it. Like, there's no way. So I'm on the board of the Entrepreneurs Organisation Adelaide. Now, it's a voluntary role, but fuck, it takes some serious hours, right? And I've said so I'm on the board this year, and the hours I've got to put in, and I've just said and I've already committed to doing it again next year, and I get a lot of personal growth out of it. But like, it's, I don't know. Sometimes I think, why do I do this? Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough one.
And then I've said yes. Like, I say yes too quickly, and then I'm like, I'm forced to work these long hours, and then once you look at the whole picture with the kids being young, I find myself in this cycle of saying yes too much. So I need to get to a space where, like, because somebody's just asked me to be on the board. Not next year, the year after.
Gosh.
And I've just committed, like, I'm not saying yes. Any decision that's like this, like, it needs to be a hard no, and I'll get back to you in 3 months until I've actually thought about it, because I've got a history of just saying, I can do it. I want to be the guy that can do everything. But you don't realize you're subtracting from other areas of your life.
Correct.
You just think that I'm invincible and I can do everything.
This is what I was saying before about, I feel like at this point in my life, I'm trying to keep lots of people happy, but actually keeping nobody happy. I'm trying to do everything I can to keep everybody happy, but actually, in actual fact, I'm keeping nobody happy because I'm giving myself a little bit of a half-ass effort to everyone rather than just honing in on what I currently need or want.
Well, I can definitely relate to that, right? Like, I've got so many balls up in the air, right, that I feel like I'm doing 10 things, but not as good as I should be doing them.
Yep.
And like, I got to this point, so I was having issues where with the podcast, which I really love doing, right? I get a real kick out of this. I was doing the editing and all of that, and it got to the point where I was like, I can't do this. So then, because I've filled my life up with shit that's, I guess, moving me forward from a personal growth perspective or a financial perspective, I almost stopped doing something that I love, right? Because then I stopped doing it for a few weeks, and I'm like, I almost got to the point where it's like, oh, I'll just stop doing it. I don't have time for it. It's like, no, this is actually, like, this is what I want to be doing, and I'm letting all that other shit, because I can't say fucking no, get in the way of something I actually love doing.
Yeah.
And then it's the same thing with the kids. Like you ask me my personal values. Number one is being a good husband and father, right? Yet I'm letting the need for status and money get in the way of that sometimes, So I think it's about, for me, constantly remembering what I want out of life. And, when I get into these frantic, restless modes of like, the business isn't big enough. I know Joe Blow, who's got a $20 million business, and he's, 3 years younger than me. When I get into that mindset, I need to be able to take a step back and go, no, well, Joe Blow doesn't have a family, or, look, you are not the same person, and your situation's not the same, and be able to actually stop and say, is this actually what you want? Or is this what I was saying before, like that subconscious side of you that thinks you're not good enough, forcing you to do things that are going to ruin your life?
Gotta try not to compare yourself, don't you?
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah.
You hear about other people's success, and we know when you have some success, that effort that goes into it, and the back end side of it.
Yep.
Who knows what they've been through or what they've had to do, and that's the thing.
Who knows what they've sacrificed, and are you willing to sacrifice that? Because as the older and older I get, like, the more that answer is no. Do you know what I mean? Like the Ironman, for instance. Like, I did the Ironman, and then I've got a bunch of people ask me, "Oh, what's next?" I'm like, I am not signing up to anything for at least 6 months, because like that got to 10, 12 plus hours a week of training, and I'm like,
I think you're crazy doing that stuff. It's awesome. It's such an awesome thing to tick that box.
It was good, and it was, again, life changing, but it was like, I really need to evaluate what I'm saying, what I'm letting into my life, because I'm like you, and the fact that, like, if I've said to people, hey, I'm doing an Ironman, even when things get so fucked that I'm on the verge of a nervous breakdown, I'm not pulling out. There's no way I'm pulling out. I just know that about myself.
Because you've said you're going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we are very similar with that then.
All right, we're an hour and a half in. Let's quickly cover the East Coast.
Yeah, all right. It won't take long. We've so essentially I flew back after my 2 weeks off.
Yep.
Or 2 weeks off, 2 weeks of work, 2 weeks off the holiday. I had a new lease on life. It was amazing. I was ready to rock and roll. It was actually really good because it made me work out that back at home, life just ticks on. Everything's the same.
Things still suck at home.
Well, no, we've got a good life at home. I like my life at home. We have, that's fine. But it was more a matter of the same old happens at home. People are still going to work. People are still playing football and netball, and they're still doing the same things. The amount of people I talked to about my trip when I went home, and it was, hey, what have you been up to? And I'd start talking, and then I'd be like, Tyson, stop. What have you been up to? How have you been? And they'd be like, oh, my life's boring. All I do is work and get home and then go to bed every night. Let's talk more about you. What else have you seen?
Yeah.
And it's so true. We get stuck in our little worlds here where the same thing happens over and over and over again. Whereas what we were obviously off doing was something that was life-changing and was the sort of thing that everybody talks about doing, but we actually jumped into it and gave it a crack. So
hell yeah.
Yeah, we flew back. I flew back. We jumped in the van. We then towed it over to Queensland, which was, more sort of your remote driving out in the middle of nowhere. The van, we've got Starlink on the car, so of course we didn't need to have a sat phone or anything. We had reception if we wanted it.
So you're talking about the top end?
So this is through from NT through across to your Port Douglas.
Is that Arnhem Land out there?
No, we didn't hit that one. That was something that we wanted to get to, but that's a lot of dirt driving, heavy corrugation.
Yep.
And that's probably like we spoke about before with you'd need a month to be able to get yourself up in there, spend a few weeks up there, and then then a week to get back down.
And what was the weather like?
Oh, yeah. So once we hit Queensland, we had our first couple of drops of rain. We sort of had a few weeks worth of rain in Queensland, which was weird. It was still warm, still humid, but the rainforest obviously started, and we all fell in love with the rainforest. That was my favourite was WA. My wife's favourite is the rainforest in the top end of Queensland.
They're pretty cool.
So we went up into the Daintree, spent a bit of time there, saw some pretty big crocs. We had some more family and friends that met us up in Port Douglas. We did a nighttime tour with a local fella up there that he showed us all sorts of cool little spots where huge salties that come out at night, and you put your torch across the lake and there's just red eyes.
Yeah, we took the family there. I don't know when it was now. I think the kids are fairly young, a few years ago, but it's a really cool spot.
Yep. Yeah, that whole area, we've been up there a few times as well and loved it. So we went up as high as Cape Tribulation up in Queensland. We didn't bother trying to get up to the top of the Cape.
Cape York or whatever.
Yeah, one of those things a lot of people did that we were travelling with or that we knew. It was 1,000 kilometres of dirt one way, 1,000 kilometres of dirt back. And it was like, I've just finished cleaning the rig and getting everything good. We made it through the Gibb River Road. That was our big bucket list item. The kids don't want to sit through that. Like, we're not at the right point of life to try and tackle that. So we both just went, no, we're going down from here. So of course,
I'm worried about driving our kids to Bright in August. Like, fuck that.
Oh no, yeah, our kids have been so good in the car. I mean, they will have their days, but And we'd always hold out on iPads. We'd always stick to music first, and then from music, the kids listen to some podcasts. They listen to some bits and pieces, which they really enjoyed. Just snacks, and then once you get to that 3-4 hour mark, they're starting to get over it. As well as you've had wee stops, you've had all sorts of breaks for all things. So of course, a 4 hour drive turns into 6 hours pretty quick. There's a playground, Dad. Can we play there? I reckon I've seen every playground in Australia. But yeah, no, the kids did travel really well, which we were very fortunate to have. And then we sort of started coming down Queensland, learnt a lot about the sugarcane coming down there. Gosh, that goes for a long way.
A lot of sugar, big sugar industry. We sell into the sugar industry. There's a lot of business up there.
I've only ever flown over top of it and flown into these destinations, never actually driven down through it. And it just goes for hundreds of kilometres. It's phenomenal to see it all out there. Sort of come down through Queensland. We called in, and that was actually where I snapped my chassis on the Ram. So we had a bit of an issue. Yeah, I snapped the chassis.
How the fuck do you do that?
Well, we were going out to a country, it was an off-grid camping spot, which was on someone's property, still on a dirt road, coming down through a creek entry. Of course, it's set in a huge writing on a big sign, "Go slow." And I'm coming down. We were fully loaded with water, all food, everything in the van. And I'm coming down, sort of looking at it, going, it looks like it U's out. But in fact, it actually V'd. It went down and then up.
Okay.
And of course, Lauren's going, slow down, slow down. We're on the dirt. I didn't want to lock up and slide into it. So I sort of put as much pressure on the brake that we didn't start sliding, but hit it essentially a little bit too fast. And the car went down through. And as the car started going up, the van was still coming down and hit the bump stops in the back end and cracked the chassis. So
wow.
Ended up, with the whole tub and the front of the cab opened up. So we had a big gap at the top. So I knew instantly that it wasn't good.
You fucked it.
Yeah, essentially. And then I did some research and worked out that it was a common issue with the Ram 1500s, that they took out the bracing kits in 2021. Okay. And you need to get these chassis bracing kits installed. But there's only two places in Australia that'll do it. One's in Melbourne and one is in Queensland on the sunny coast. So, of course, I went, well, it looks like I'm going to baby this thing. We'll just see how it goes. So we ended up doing another 2,000 kilometres with the snap chassis, not going above 80 kilometres an hour, slowing right down if I saw bumps.
What 2,000 kilometres are we talking about? We're
so we snapped it.
You're going through Gladstone, Mackay.
We ended up down in Mackay area, so it was from up a bit higher than that. So it wasn't far down below Cairns where we snapped it. Yep. And then we went down into your Mackay and your Poon area was where my cousin lived. Okay. So we sort of assessed it there, and then we got down into Brisbane with it.
Oh, so you drove all the way to Brisbane?
Well, that was where my sister lives, so we sort of just wanted to get to her place. We did have to end up rushing a little bit of it, yeah. So then that was when I started making all my phone calls, managed to get onto a guy that does fix them. He could fix it within 3 weeks. So, of course, I managed to do all this running around and dropped it off there, got it all fixed and back on the road.
What does that cost?
$6,500.
Jesus.
So it was one of those ones that it would have been covered under warranty through Ram, but it wouldn't have been chassis brace that would have been fixed back to the original state, and they were 3 to 4 months behind in fixing any of these things, and it would have been unroadworthy off the road, so trip ruiner. Yeah. So it was $6,500 or go home.
So it was going to be you're going to lose the warranty.
Yeah, so I didn't want to lose. Obviously, the warranty on the car would have fixed the Ram, but ended up getting that all fixed and done, and we're on the road again. So wasn't a trip ruiner. It just cost me a little bit of money, and the Ram's now stronger than ever.
So how long did it take you to do those 1,000 Ks?
We did that over a couple of weeks. It was about 3 weeks, I reckon. So
you were still stopping?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we didn't beeline it down. We sort of still did. I went into 1770. Into there with a snap chassis. It didn't get any worse. 1770? So, it's just a little town on the Queensland coast.
Called 1770?
1770. Yeah, it was really
Is that when it was established?
No idea, actually, why it was called 1770. It's just what it is.
It wouldn't be established in 1770, would it?
yeah, correct, actually, now that you say that.
Yeah.
So we sort of, actually another cool thing, we followed whales. So there was whales the whole way. First sighting was when we went out to the Great Barrier Reef from...
they're migrating or something?
Yeah, well, they were going down the coastline. So we were essentially, everywhere we went, there was whales.
Wow.
So I flew my drone once 3 kilometres out to sea just to go and look at these whales. And of course, there is rules and regs as to how close you can get. So we were quite high up in the sky to make sure that we didn't get too close to these things. But we saw manta rays, we saw whales, we saw all sorts. A drone is something that I recommend anyone that wants to go travelling to get, because what you see from above
You can see the whole landscape.
It's incredible what's above you versus what your eyes on the land can see. And it makes the watercolor completely change and everything. Yeah, it's beautiful.
So what was your favourite town along that line?
I loved Rainbow Beach. Rainbow Beach was pretty special.
Where's
that? Just a little bit higher. It's just up from the sunny coast. So just trying to think what else is around that area.
What does it go? Townsville, Gladstone, Mackay, then it gets down
then it gets down to around your 1770, which is where this...
Okay, so
and then just below that is Rainbow Beach.
Yep.
And then you get down to the sunny coast from there.
So did you go through Whitsundays and stuff?
Yes, we did.
Yep.
So, and that was... we hired a boat, actually. Had a boat for a day. The ocean was a glass off. It was incredible. We went fishing. The kids got to swim with a big Mary Wrasse fish.
Wow.
His name's George. He's a local. He's always in the same location. But just absolutely incredible. We went out to Whitehaven Beach. I threw the drone up, and the inlet from Whitehaven Beach it's one of my coolest photos that I reckon I've got. It's just absolutely spectacular to look at.
Nice.
So we did actually collect little samples of sand the whole around Australia as well. And the sand we got from Esperance, so Warton Beach, is whiter than Whitehaven Beach, which was quite interesting, I found.
Yeah.
So, of course, we've got all the different colours from blacks to reds to whites to the whole way around. So we haven't done it yet. We're going to get a map of Australia and put the sands the whole way around Australia. So you've got just a little bit of a sample of what all the different colours are the whole way around.
Yep.
Collected a few shells, got quite a few different bits and pieces that we brought home with us. So, just memorable things that are very special.
And then through Sydney.
Yeah, so then we went down. I reckon I lost 3 years off the end of my life in Sydney trying to drive the caravan and car through that place. Gosh, that was hard work.
Oh, dude, it's fucked. I went to Manly recently, and I think if you leave in the morning, the traffic, I think it should be a 30-minute drive. It was like 2.5, 3 hours. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
I don't know how they do it.
The traffic over there is absolutely out of control. I couldn't live there. I don't understand why anyone lives there.
Nah, me either. We wanted to try, because of course the Ram isn't a full off-road, 2.4 metres high, awning on the side. We couldn't get a car park.
Jesus.
Could not get a car park. We wanted to go into Sydney for the day, so we ended up, because we took bikes away with us, we ended up having to park 3 kilometres from the ferry at Manly, because that was the closest car park we could get for my car that was longer than a 2-hour car park.
Yeah.
We rode the bikes in, caught the ferry across, did a day riding. We did 14 kilometres of riding around Sydney, looked at all the hot spots.
Where'd you catch the ferry to?
At Manly. We went into the main harbour there at Sydney.
Yep, the Circular Quay.
Yeah, Circular Quay. Yeah. Did all of our riding around Sydney, did everything we wanted to do, and then jumped back on the ferry, went back across 3 kilometres back to the car. It was a full day. I think we got back to the caravan that night at 9:30 that night, but of course, and we did 20 kilometres worth of bike riding. I
love Manly. I think Manly's really cool.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. The beach there, the coastline where you can walk along those rocks and stuff. It's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, no, I must say the New South Wales coastline is spectacular.
Yeah.
Some of those big rocks and the beautiful colours of the water that you see, it's very special. And you can see why people want to live there. But we did find coming down through that east coast that there's nowhere on the coast you can stay with it doesn't cost you $100 a night, because caravan parks, everywhere's taken.
Yeah, you've got. What's the population of Sydney? 4 or 6 million, and then you've got you look at WA and how much beaches and free land there is for a place with a 1.5 million population. Then you go to Sydney, you got 6 million. You're like 6 beaches.
Correct. It was crazy.
And then you've also got a bunch of rich people who pay $10 million for the house.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
By the end, I was over people. I got sick of human beings on the East Coast. It just got to that point where it was. There's too many people here, and you can't even go for a walk or a bike ride or without just dodging around people.
Yeah. So we went to New York. I don't know, this is again off topic, but I was in New York, and I think we were there for 3 or 4 days, and by the end of it, I was like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? Because your room is like a shoebox, so to get any air, you need to go outside, and then you go out, and you're literally just sardines everywhere you go. I hated it, and Sydney is like a kind of heading towards that.
Yeah,
direction.
It's a crazy place.
Yeah,
and the Sydney way is upbeat, full noise, flat out all the time.
Yeah,
which
I can't do it.
Yeah, it's not for me. So anyway, we went down the southern New South Wales, beautiful, a lot down through there as well. It's a really nice part of Australia. A lot more cruisy, obviously a bit quieter. Then we went down into Victoria. We sort of got to Victoria and we were done by that point. We'd had our fun. We were starting to point our nose towards home. We went down into Rosebud, and it's...
What's Rosebud?
Rosebud's just a town on the Mornington Peninsula. So sort of got down into there, and
What's
they've
the
got
Mornington Peninsula?
the peninsula around from Melbourne. So
Okay.
once you're from here, you go through Melbourne,
Yep.
another 2.5 hours around to get down around to the bottom.
Okay.
So it's just a big section where, once again, a lot of beautiful houses, nice beaches, nice part of the world.
Gotcha.
In Victoria, there's 15 of the top 100 golf courses in the Mornington Peninsula, and I played golf the whole way around Australia, so I think I played on 24 different courses the whole way around, and
that's cool.
ended up playing, I think it was 12 of them were within the top 40 golf courses in Australia. So
That's awesome.
yeah, played some really cool courses, and we went down to Rosebud. I played a few courses there, and then of course organised a boys trip to go back there, which I did a couple of months ago. So I think I did that in it was a month ago, early March.
So is that a good spot? Because that seems a lot more accessible to us.
That was
from
the
South
reason
Australia.
why we sort of beelined it for home, was because we can be back here in 2 days of travel. We don't need to, we were homesick at that point. We were ready to come home. It was leading up to Christmas, and all we wanted to do was just get back to see everybody.
So you were 11 months in.
Yeah, 11 months into the trip, and we were just like, we didn't want to leave and just go straight home. We didn't think to ourselves, well, we've just wasted that last 3 weeks, because if I said to you, do you want to go on a 3-week holiday, you'd go, shit, yeah. Whereas in the scheme of things, for a 12-month trip, it didn't seem like that big a deal, but we made sure we only got home 5 days earlier than we sort of planned, which was to make sure we were back for Christmas and see all the family.
That's awesome.
So yeah, we came back to Murray Bridge to a family shack up there. We spent 2 weeks there, which was an amazing transfer.
So you went
straight back to the shack, yeah.
whether
at Murray
you
Bridge.
met family. And
Yeah, and people come up and saw us up there. So, of course, we went home to do things because our house still had people in it. We rented the house out for 12 months. So, of course, we went back to the shack. The kids still had the van there. We started unpacking, cleaning, doing all our bits and pieces. We were able to still be on a holiday, having a good time together, but be back in the house environment. When we stayed in houses around Australia with family or people that flew over, our kids would hug the couch and hug the TV before they left and said, I'm going to miss you so much, because they didn't have these life luxuries on the road.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
So we were obviously minimalistic on the road. We lived with next to nothing. We just had the food, the shirt on your back, and a caravan and a car, and all we had to do was make sure we got from point A to point B, and the kids they had a little box of toys. That's all they needed, and they were happy. They played with sticks and stones, and they didn't need to have all these extra things. So yeah, it's funny, their mindset that changed as well. And the little things that they obviously appreciated, which was a couch and a TV.
Yeah, you're going to make me go on another materialism rant.
Yeah,
I completely
I'm not
fucking
gonna,
agree. The amount of shit I waste money on,
Yeah,
that doesn't bring us any happiness. Is
No,
phenomenal.
correct.
Yeah.
So yeah, we sort of got home and did all the festive, the Christmas and New Year's, and then got back into the house. And I think I went back to work 2 days after we got home. We got home on the 4th. I was back to work on the 6th.
Okay.
Just because it was, the start of the year. We tried to drag the holiday out for as long as we could. And then we had all our stuff in a shed alongside the house. So we just dragged everything back in, set the house up. As long as we had beds and a kitchen, I didn't care.
When was this? was this? I'm trying to figure out when you got back.
So we shack.
No, like what year? Was it 2024 you're away or 2023?
2024.
Oh, so you literally just got back a few months ago?
Yeah, correct.
We've
been home for 3 months.
Okay.
3.5 months, I should say.
Gotcha. And how's that been?
Hard. Like I said, getting back into the normal life. And I told myself when I was on the road, I'm not going back to working long, stupid hours. I'm not going back to the Tyson that I was. I want to socialise more with friends, spend more time with family. Still, I want to work hard, but I don't want to go back to Monday to Saturday working around the clock and never seeing the kids. And the last 3 months, I've had the first week was really weird. I had no role in the business. I walked back in and everything was ticking along nicely and it was all good. And I sort of would jump on the tools for 6 to 8 hours, whatever I was required of a day, and go home and feel lost. I sort of felt very lost, and I wanted responsibilities and I wanted to get straight back into it. And now I am back into it, and I've had a few changes in the business with some guys that have gone on to do other things and moved on, and one guy retired. So I've had sort of lost 3 guys that were out in the field working in the first 2.5 months of being home. And it's just completely flipped the business on its head. So there's been a lot of decisions to be made. I had meetings with everyone when we first got home. Everyone was happy. So we've committed to a bigger yard. We've gone 3 times the size. We're now locked in for 5 years at this new yard, and then half the team's left. So now I'm sort of left with the next challenge and the next hurdle to jump through. We've got more space now, which is great. We've got a team with only 2 vans or 3 vans on the road essentially, and 1 guy in the office. So a lot's changed since I've been back, but I think it'll work out to be okay. I'm happy and I'm positive as to what's to come. I don't want to have to take on every job. I don't want to grow. I don't want to get to a $10 million business. I'm not interested in it because I know what stress that brings, and I know what that can lead into. And I don't want to have to say yes to every single job that the phone rings. I'd rather be able to. I've decided my top 10 clients are my most important now, and then obviously we'll find jobs around the outside of that, but just keep a couple of vans busy, and I'll be going to work every day, which is fine, but at least I know that when I am working hard, I get paid the reward for it, rather than sort of just trying to oversee and hope that everyone's doing the right thing and putting my trust into everybody else. I've sort of, had a bit of a different... I'm going to give this a crack anyway and see where it takes me.
So how are you going? I mean, you said you don't want to go back into long hours and you want to spend more time. So how's that going? Do you feel like you've achieved that, or do you think you're...
Not so far. Far, it's just been trying to work around the clock to try and build this new office, this new environment, new PPH.
Well, I mean, it almost sounds like you're trying to, I guess, recover from a deficit, right? Like if you're gone for so long, there's the financial aspect of you digging into your thing. There's the not giving the business the TLC it probably needs.
Correct.
So I wonder if there's just going to be a 3 to 6 month period where you're trying to get back to some sort of baseline, and then...
Yeah, well, now that I've sort of sorted out all my staffing issues that we've sort of been through, I feel like I've now got my baseline that I know everyone else that's in the business is there for all the right reasons and everyone wants to be there. Yeah. So now I can move forward as to what that means for PPH and for myself. I've sort of got a baseline now to go, right, this is what the future looks like, and this is what your task is, and this is what my task is. So I sort of feel like I'm on the onwards and upwards from now, but the last 3 months going from obviously... the whole retirement feeling, I suppose you could say, 12 months off and seeing what the light looks like on the other side of the tunnel. Back to reality. And it's slapped me in the face, and I've been absolutely knackered of a night, but it's all for the right reasons. And we'll see what happens. See what 2025 is going to bring for myself and my family.
So do you have any more big plans coming up, or are you still just trying to...
we're going to the snow in a couple of months' time, which will be exciting, just for a week or so. Yep. But then outside of that, we'd like to do Tasmania. We didn't do Tassie on this trip. Okay. So we feel like we'd need 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks to get down into Tassie and to do that. Yeah, I've heard it's absolutely stunning, but it just didn't work with our schedule. So we, keep in contact, see a few of the families that we met along the road. Would be pretty cool to go back and see them, but also get down to Tassie at some point whilst we still have the caravan, because obviously the caravan's not going to be with us forever. For the next few years it will be, but outside of that I'm not really sure. But sort of see where life takes us.
Awesome, Tyson. I mean, I've got a million more questions, but let's wrap it up.
Yeah, definitely. No, well, thanks for having me, and thanks for your time. It was amazing.
Thanks so much for coming on.
Cheers, Lee.